Hi there, my name is Lauren Quidar Cockrell, and I am here today to talk to you about the top 5 factors that impact how much your PR campaign costs. So you might be wondering, how much is PR? And well, it depends. But there are some common factors, 5 in fact, that we typically think about as we are building up a budget, and that can drive the cost up or down for your particular campaign. Those factors are: 1, what is your news? There are some 3 common buckets: product, service, or business launches, executive announcements, or crisis communications and reputation management. Number 2, where and how is your news being shared? Number 3, when is your news being shared? Number 4, what assets will help us tell your news? And number 5, who is involved in the project? One of the first things we ask you when we meet with you is, what is your news? Is this a product, service, or business launch? Is this an executive announcement with thought leadership contained with it? Or is this along the lines of crisis and reputation management? Those are all very different communication campaigns, and therefore they can have wildly disparate budgets. So, and there are certainly other kinds of campaigns, but these are 3 common buckets that news might fall into. When it comes to a launch, like a product, a service, or your actual business, we're thinking about all the different channels that we might share your news. We're thinking about all the different audiences that will come into play. So when we're considering your news and information, we're going to create that strategy and content in collaboration with you. If you have an internal team, fabulous. If you don't, also fabulous. We work both with internal teams and without. And that impacts the budget too. Sometimes if you have a lot of people, you might think, I bet that's helpful. And sometimes it is, and sometimes it's not. Usually we like to work with fewer rather than more people, but we'll get into that in a minute. But yes, if you've got people on your team who can create a lot of content and you need someone like us to review it, and from a news perspective or newsworthiness perspective, that's helpful. But yeah, pricing will then vary based on who's responsible for what. Executive announcements, really powerful PR content, subject matter expertise, and laying that foundation for your executive or executives. And so, that's something that really helps cast the vision forward for your business. It's not necessarily driving sales, but it still helps you show where your business is going, who's joining your team, what are they bringing with them, who's rising through the ranks of your team. And then what are we doing after that? Are we really establishing them as an authority in your space? Are we pitching them to podcasts? Are they writing opinion pieces? Things like that. So the breadth and scope of that project will certainly impact your budget. And then finally, the third most common type of campaign is crisis and reputation management. And this is actually the most expensive kind of campaign. So first of all, if you are facing an issue or you think you might be, reach out to someone, whether it's us or another provider, sooner rather than later. This is not wine. Bad news is not like wine. It does not get better with age. The sooner you can bring someone in, even if you're not sure if it's going to be an issue, getting some counsel would be helpful. And then if it does get worse, then you've already read someone in, they're prepared and ready to go. Trying to catch up later on is a challenge that we face. There's 2 sides to every story. And so, definitely be thinking about sooner rather than later. And this is actually one of the few places we charge by the hour. We really don't charge by the hour in any other type of project, but in this instance, sometimes we do. And it's more expensive by the hour because we're having to push everything else aside to help you get safely to the other side of your issue. Also, just side note, when it comes to issues in crisis communications, an ounce of prevention is worth a pound of cure. So do anything that you can ahead of time, like crisis communication planning before you ever have an issue is a valuable use of time and funds. So anyway, those are the 3 different types of campaigns, and they all vary depending on scope and budget and the breadth of each project. Okay, so then we then think about where and how is your news being shared. We build custom media lists based on geographic location and your industry niche. We want to share your news across your own channels, your website, your email distribution, your social media channels. And then we also think about traditional or web-based news wires to help get into all the nooks and crannies that we might not necessarily miss when we're building out a media list, but there are some that we might not know about. And then also there's some gravitas that is lended to your announcement when we send it out on a newswire. And those newswires do have a hard cost associated with them, and so that impacts your budget as well. When is your news being shared? Do we have months to prepare? Amazing. Do we have weeks? Do we have days? Less amazing, but we can do it. But yes, the longer the timeline, sometimes that does drive down the cost a little bit. Certainly the converse is true. If we have very little time, then that drives up the cost tremendously. What assets do you have that will help us tell the news? Artwork is critical for storytelling. Even if we're thinking about print media, having imagery or even video, because every single news outlet has a digital component to it. Even if they don't share news stories on their website, they have social channels, and the more we can provide them from you to really create some beautiful storytelling, both through imagery and through content, the better. And it helps them get more clicks and follows and all that good stuff. And then also when we think about crisis communications, what we want to have, we want physical plant imagery, headshots of the team, supporting video if needed. If we're thinking about executive announcements, having headshots of the team member, video is great too. And then certainly for product, service, or business launches, we want anything that will help us tell the story. So if you think about a shoe launch, we want the shoe itself. We want someone wearing it. We want a headshot of the designer. We want B-roll of the design and production process, your logo, anything and everything that will help convey a story. And so if you have all that already, great. If you don't and you need help sourcing content creators on the imagery side, then that will impact your budget. And then number 5, who is involved in your project? Like I said earlier, the more the merrier, right? Not necessarily. We really want to think about who's right to be included. We want individuals who are critically involved in the story itself. So if we think about that, a new shoe launch, like we were just talking about, we want to speak to the creator and the designer of the shoe, so that we can really get their take on it. That would be very helpful. Make sure that everything is accurate and compelling. And then we also want to think about who can derail this process. If you exclude someone because you think you're being efficient, but then we're ready to go at the finish line, and then someone comes in and says, oh no, that's not how I would have said it at all. I want to change everything. They probably should have been involved in the beginning. So we want just enough so that we can move forward at an efficient pace, but not too many people that there's so many different voices. If you feel like you need more than 3 people to help share your news and information and to work with a PR provider, that's just a whole different skill set. Managing that many opinions and expectations, that really kind of turns into more of like a team building exercise than anything, but it can be done. there's just a fee for it. So anyway, I hope that helps. Those are the top 5 factors that we think about when we are creating a PR budget scope of work for our clients. If we can be helpful to you in answering any further questions, please let us know. Thank you.